Hello folks. I've already reviewed 2 different cheap generic camcorders, and I hadn't planned to review any more. But it seems that the reason some of these are so popular is due to their ability to record in infrared night vision. From what I understand, a TV show, or maybe multiple TV shows about ghost hunting, have convinced people that cameras that record in infrared can see evidence of ghosts. So people want night vision camcorders for ghost hunting. Admittedly, I don't know much about paranormal investigation, probably because my friends won't take me ghost hunting anymore. Apparently, I totally missed the point of ghost hunting when I went along. Alright guys, I'm just coming up on this old rundown building, really exciting location, really creepy place. I'm getting a little bit ahead of the others, I probably shouldn't, but I'm just really excited to check this building out. It's actually kind of weird, all the insects have pretty much stopped making noise in the area, it's kind of creepy. But let's gonna go into this building and check it out. Yeah, it's really run down, but it's a really neat place. Be interesting to check it out. Yeah, really strange. Man, you wonder what an old abandoned building like this might have been used for back in the day. Really crazy, but just really interesting. And whoa, did you see that? I think I saw one. I totally saw one. Oh my gosh. Holy crap. I think I got it.
Dude, what the heck?
Why do they call it hunting if... Forget it. The point is, I'm not an expert on such things, but I still wanted to take a look at one of the cameras that specifically advertises night vision capability. Most cameras are designed to record photos and videos using light only from the visible spectrum. This makes sense as the visible spectrum is what we see, so it's how we expect photos and videos to look. But unlike our eyes, standard digital image sensors can actually see light in the infrared spectrum to some extent. But if infrared light reaches the sensor along with visible light, it affects the recorded colors and shifts them away from what we normally see. To prevent this, cameras have a filter in front of the sensor, sometimes built right onto the sensor, that cuts out the majority of infrared light. This allows the sensor to record colors as we see them. But blocking the IR light does reduce the total amount of light reaching the sensor, and in low light, the more light you can get to the sensor, the better. With that in mind, night vision on a camcorder like this just means that the camera has some way to remove the IR filter from in front of the sensor. This will make the image a bit brighter as more total light is reaching the sensor. Most camcorders switch to black and white or monochrome in IR mode because this helps make the brightest image with the light available, and because the IR would cause odd colors anyway. IR flashlights and built-in IR lights on the camera can be used to increase the amount of light in the recording without producing a visible beam. Many security cameras use IR lights for this reason. Basically, most cameras cut out IR light to provide colors that are accurate to what we see with our eyes, but if you let the IR in, the image will be slightly brighter, and you'll have the ability to record with IR light sources, and apparently to search for ghosts. But whatever your reason for wanting a camera with IR recording capability, this camera has it. This is a Zohulu branded camera, and the ad on Amazon calls it a paranormal investigation camera. It's the same camera as the Ordro AC3 and the same as some Ancter cameras and others. In fact, I ordered the Ancter version, but the ad said it may arrive branded Ancter or Zohulu. Mine says Zohulu, but I think it's just a sticker pasted on over another brand. Probably Ancter. The body and all the controls are virtually identical to the Ordro AC5 I reviewed previously. And like that camera, this one has a block of metal inside, presumably to make it feel like higher quality than it is. It also has the same mode switch, which is way too easy to bump to another mode, and this one feels extra loose and scrapes a bit when I turn it. The display screen on this camera also has a bunch of stuck pixels. The touchscreen works well enough most of the time, but it's useless in playback mode. It'll work for a couple of taps and then it freezes up and stops responding entirely, despite all the controls still being on the screen. This camera has 4K, but not really 4K resolution. It isn't 4K, and they admit it if you look deep enough, but they still plaster 4K and UHD all over the ads, the box, and the camera itself because You know, it would be 4K if it weren't for that darn file size. They claim they use something called DAR compression to reduce the resolution because 4K video is too large for a memory card. Sounds like made-up nonsense to make it all seem a little bit like less of a lie to call it 4K. It has the typical accessory overload that these types of cameras come with. Pouch, cord, another cord, remote control, charger, mic adapter, strap, wide-angle lens, macro lens, card reader, and a memory card. And with this particular version, instead of an external microphone, they include an infrared flashlight and a mount so you can hang it from the bottom of the camera. Strangely, it does not include a battery for the flashlight, which is an 18650. It does include 2 batteries for the camera. The ad said that it includes 1 standard battery and 1
extra super powerful
battery. That's the actual words they use. The dramatic emphasis was mine, but it's fair to say it was implied. I have no idea if this battery is actually any higher capacity, but the label on it does say 2000 milliamp hours versus 1700 on the other battery, so maybe it'll run the camera a bit longer. Full disclosure, I didn't actually time it to find out, but battery life isn't impressive with either battery. If you want to know any more specifics about the accessories, let me know, but let's move on to performance. I'll show a few quick clips of daytime stuff, but it's pretty much what I expected. It works, but footage looks stuttery and dynamic range is really poor. Colors are a bit oversaturated, but they are more natural than they were on the AC5 I reviewed, and details are definitely better than the AC5 in good light. But there are noticeable sharpening artifacts, and there is some noise even in good light. In anything less than perfect light, the detail drops rapidly. There's no optical zoom or image stabilization, and it's a fixed focus lens. One annoying problem is the auto exposure often makes the videos look way too dark. 2 stops up on the exposure compensation results in massively overexposed video. 1 stop up sometimes helps, but it's risky because making the video even a bit too bright will completely blow out the highlights. But what really makes this a problem is that the display on the camera doesn't represent the final video well at all. Videos typically turn out far different than they appear on the display while recording. So it may look like you're capturing a good video with good exposure, only to find out that the video is super dark or overexposed when you actually play it back later.
Warning: the audio created by this camera is known to the state of California to cause ear cancer.
This camera is far too aggressive on the audio noise cancellation. It has a low bit rate, a low sample rate, and it's mono only. These are issues with the camera itself, so connecting a microphone to the external mic input does little to improve the audio. It's horrible and unusable. Here are some samples. With all that said, as far as I'm aware, no current $200 name brand camcorder has infrared night vision. So, let's talk about the night vision on this camera. Let's put ghost hunting aside for a moment and just talk about the other reasons that you might want the night vision mode. If you're hoping the night vision mode will actually let you see better or record better in the dark, you will likely be disappointed. Even in twilight, when I can still see fairly well with the naked eye, this camera will record totally black video when not using an IR flashlight. Using an IR flashlight to illuminate a small area of the camera's field of view when I could simply look up and see everything quite well feels a little silly to me. The camera's sensor and lens setup simply can't do much in low light, even in infrared mode. Don't get me wrong, IR mode on any camcorder won't come close to true night vision technology. It'll only make the video a bit brighter and allow the use of IR lights rather than visible lights to illuminate a scene. Just keep in mind that this camcorder performs very poor in low light to begin with, so you'll need a lot of added IR light to see much in IR mode. As an example, here are 2 clips recorded in my backyard at the same time. The Zohulu is in IR mode with the built-in IR light on. The other clip is from a Sony RX100 camera with no infrared mode. These 2 cameras aren't in the same price category or even in the same form category. I simply wanted to demonstrate that while the IR mode does allow filming with IR flashlights, it does not give this camcorder good low light performance in general. The clip from the Sony isn't perfect, but the view is actually a tiny bit brighter than how well I could see at the time. The night vision video on the Zohulu is almost totally black. The Zohulu's internal IR light is even on, and yet you can't even see the fire ring only a few feet away. Speaking of that built-in IR light, it's all but useless. It's only helpful in very close quarters, and this is despite getting quite warm after only a few minutes and draining the battery quickly. The light comes on automatically when you activate IR mode, and I haven't found any way to turn it off. It puts so much drain on the battery that the gauge will drop a bar or two when I switch to the IR mode and go back up when I turn the IR mode off. I've seen it drop from showing 2 bars to flashing red when switching to IR mode, and only to go back to 2 bars when I turn the IR mode back off. So it's a shame that that light can't be turned off, since the camera actually comes with an IR flashlight, and that flashlight is essentially a requirement for recording in anything even close to darkness. And remember, you can't assume something will be visible in the recording just because it was visible on the display. As I mentioned earlier, the final video will likely be much darker than what the display shows. The clarity and detail in IR mode is poor, with a combination of noise and blurring from noise reduction. On the plus side, the fixed focus actually works in the camera's favor in IR mode. Cameras generally have more trouble focusing in low light, but this one is fixed focus, so no problem there. One positive for this camera is that rather than being locked in monochrome when in IR mode, it lets you switch back to full color mode. This is mostly pointless in the dark, but in the daylight, it can show what the combination of visible and IR light looks like to a camera sensor. This is what virtually all digital cameras would produce if they didn't have IR blocking filters. If you find the idea of being able to record in a wavelength of light that you would never otherwise see compelling, this camera might be of interest to you. However, it has enough issues that I'd recommend just getting a decent camera converted for IR imaging instead. Do some searching and you'll find lots of info about the subject of IR photography. As for paranormal investigation use, infrared light is emitted and reflected in various amounts by just about everything. It's not special, and it's so well understood that we create tools that accurately measure the temperature of objects simply by analyzing their IR emissions. And we can create a filter for a camera that specifically blocks IR in order for that camera to provide colors accurate to what we see with our eyes. But since we can't see it with our unaided eyes, it holds for some people an air of the mysterious and supernatural. It represents an entire world of unseen wonders, so I guess it's understandable that someone could be convinced that fleeting signs of ghosts might be captured if only you could record in this hidden wavelength of light that our eyes can't see. If the TV shows and paranormal investigators and people selling ghost hunting equipment have convinced you that an IR camcorder is the tool you need to go out and search for ghosts yourself, then this is one of the cheaper IR camcorders out there. And with the low-quality coatings and shiny internal surfaces of the lens, you'll get more glare, reflections, and lens flares than you would with a better camera. Combine that with the dark, low-detail output, and you're probably more likely to capture evidence of ghosts with this camera than with more expensive one. So, win-win. And if you just want to make videos with the spooky IR mode look that has been popularized by movies and TV shows, this camera will give you that look. If you believe that ghosts manipulate temperature for some reason, this really isn't the camera to detect that. The IR mode isn't nearly sensitive enough to detect the differences in actual temperature, and it isn't designed to display the image based on temperature either. For that, you need a true thermal imaging camera. If you're just looking for a good quality camcorder with decent image quality and good low light performance, you should look elsewhere. Hopefully that was helpful. If you have any questions or if there's anything else you want me to test out with IR mode, let me know. And as always, thank you for watching. Take care.